Welcome to this new episode of Casted to the King, episode 14. My name is Joshua Mickle, and happy to be here with you today. The last few weeks, I haven't been able to put out an episode or since my dad was here, mainly because of the illustrious work that we have going on at the Life Church right now and the many filming schedulings that we've had in the last 2 weeks or so. So it's been pretty busy, and we're coming up on Easter week, which is set to be a really big day. From what I heard from one of our pastors, actually, is that we're supposed to be getting around over 1,200 people, supposedly, on Good Friday service. So we'll see how that goes. And, hey, if that happens, then awesome. That's going to be one packed auditorium. And curious what's going to happen with the whole overflow, because you got an area that's used to be the auditorium, but it's spaced out to the younger kids and whatnot. So we'll see what happens there. So today on our show, we'll see how long this goes. But as you can see behind me, and the topics on this thumbnail is that it is John Wick review time for Chapter 4, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. And we are going to check in on what's going on with John Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies and the rest of the NBA. And so, right off the top, and we're going to dive into this. John Wick Chapter 4 came out a few weeks ago. Finally got a chance to see it the other day. And I have to say, if you love Chapter 3, you're going to love this movie. For me, I actually like Chapter 3 a whole lot. The issue that I run into with this movie is that logic and physics are just thrown out the door, if they weren't already in this movie in particular, because with John Wick and this franchise of introducing the gun-fu-ness that is John Wick, with the guns, the martial arts, and all sorts of, like, wherever you can think of, essentially, in this movie, it just takes it to a whole nother level. And some of the cinematography, like, the things that stand out the most is definitely the cinematography and the the cinematography, the directing, the stunt coordination, the action set pieces. And there's a piece come to the end of the around the third, it's in the third act, and it's just this wide panning camera shot that you would see almost in a video game that really caught my eye, being somewhat of a quasi gamer myself. Not like a full-time gamer, but I have experience in the field per se of playing those kinds of games. And the cinematography for that particular scene really caught my eye, and I just couldn't stop smiling of all the kills and that John Wick was just laying on folks. So what I want to discuss first with this movie, and I'll try not to spoil anything for you guys, and I'll just go down, I'll just roll through what I thought about this movie, and I'll give you my thoughts and recommendations on it. So Keanu Reeves kills it as always as John Wick himself. He is not the issue of the movie. He is always like he's who you come to see. Of like, okay, who's he gonna strangle next? Who is he gonna kill next? Who is he gonna decapitate next? Like, you expect this, like you expect it out of these movies now. And so, like, the whole cast is just leveled with awesomeness, like the set pieces, the dialogue for what the script was well executed, and I thought it was done really well, especially for this kind of genre of movie. The story, I would say, gets a little bit repetitive at most, because there is a portion, like at the end of John Wick 3, he's supposed to go after this high table of underground, like, mob bosses of sorts in this John Wick universe and whatnot. And then they tackle on that for like the first portion of the movie, and then it just goes away after the first 15 minutes of the movie. And so the ultimate end goal in this movie kind of gets a little bit of a, I would say, like a I mean, like kind of like that wincing look of like, did that really just happen? You almost have to do a double take of, okay, so what was all of this about essentially? So, like it leaves you with that, it leaves you that kind of an ending for John Wick, chapter 4, and going forward. I mean, you would think there's one movie that's a spinoff that's in the pipeline, dealing with the ballerinas and whatnot from the third movie, and we'll see how that movie goes. And Keanu Reeves is supposed to be reprising his role as John Wick in that movie, and we'll see what happens from there. But in terms of the story of this whole movie, outside of the first 15 minutes that has that little connective tissue from chapter 3 and chapter 4, it like you're just there for, like after that 15 minutes or so in the movie, you're just there for the action, you're there for the set pieces and the fun and the ridiculousness that is John Wick chapter 4 of what it continues to do, up the ante. And I'll just say this right now, John Wick is God mode. Like, this is essentially what the movie is that he is just in God mode. He can't take any damage. It seems like he can't take damage. He can't, like, break any bones and whatnot. He doesn't understand the meaning of pain. Again, there are those that will enjoy it like me. I got a great experience from this movie watching it. But there are those out there that didn't watch this, stuck with this franchise because of the mythos, the lore, with the high table, with the Continental, with a whole bunch of other mythos in this world that they have built through 3 movies that now going on to 4 movies now. Is it now redundant to where, okay, maybe I'll give this franchise one more shot, and then if it doesn't deliver, then I'm just gonna be out on it. So it has. It has to fall with that sort of dichotomy of you don't want to action set pieces. They clearly nail and they clearly got it in the bag. It's just a matter of now the stories were really good from chapter 1 going into 2, and then the cliffhanger that was 2 going straight into number 3, and now from 3 going into 4. Now you're on the 4th one, and story almost just goes out the window essentially. So in terms of that, there is almost, in terms of for what the script was, it's not redundantly bad, but it's more enjoyable than some of the action flicks that we've had in the last few years. And the last time John Wick came out with chapter 3, I think it was in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. So we've had almost over 4 years of no John Wick movie. So the last time we had John Wick movie was pre-pandemic of 2020. This film was originally supposed to come out in 2021, I want to say. But lockdowns and pushbacks and politics and whatnot. Folks don't want to open things up anymore. But now they're finally getting back into the groove of things of movies coming out. Especially this summer, of the hit blockbusters that are coming out this summer, that it is really going to be a packed summer, and it's going to be a fun summer if you're a movie fan coming out soon. And John Wick, I would recommend a good watch. I would recommend you purchase a ticket and see this in movie theaters, and quickly VOD it if you haven't seen it in theaters. VOD it the moment you get that chance and watch it. It's a great watch if you're a John Wick fan for sure. But if you're looking for story, you're not going to get it for the most of the movie. In this movie, yes, this movie, as part of the other con of this movie is almost 3 hours long. Oh my God, it's almost it felt again I will tune into the YouTube clips and watch some of those fight action sequences on repeat. That's how good they were. But for 3 bloody hours. That is so long of a fan to watch. And I'm not one of those fans that I need to empty my bladder midway through the movie and use the bathroom or anything. But there are those that will be like, 3 hours is a little bit too much. Maybe this movie could have been cut of 30 minutes. You could cut this movie 30 minutes short. You could cut. There's a portion of the third act that just seems like it just doesn't end. It just seems like it doesn't end, and you're like, okay, it keeps going, and it keeps going, and it keeps going, and it just keeps going some more. So it does. I mean, in terms of that part of the movie in Paris, towards the first portion when they're in Paris and their fighting starts breaking out, that where they were took so long. Like, you could just cut half of that, and that's your trimmed movie right there, in my opinion. Going forward with the John Wick franchise, if you've seen the movie, you kinda are scratching your head. How are you gonna do a next movie? Of like you're just shrugging your shoulders, like, okay, the only way this is gonna happen is if X happens with so and so, without spoiling the movie. So, but there is going to be that spin-off movie. We'll see if it's critically acclaimed and makes money for Lionsgate. And they really don't have much down the pipeline outside of the Hunger Games prequel that's coming out this November. So Lionsgate doesn't have really much in terms of box office, big numbers for the box office. So we'll see what happens from there with this franchise. And another movie that came out that actually really, really surprised me. I expected it to be good, but I did not expect it to be as good as I thought it would be. And that was Shazam: Fury of the Gods, the latest installment in this DC extended universe before the Flash reset reboot of this universe happens. We have another installment in this DC lineup, and that is Shazam: Fury of the Gods. This movie, coming off the heels of, actually, you have a Marvel movie that just released Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and if you watch this podcast, there are some thoughts and opinions on it. Like, we somewhat liked it, and there are some things where we're like, okay, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This movie, Shazam, it knew what it was, and it nailed everything on the head, in my opinion, in terms of what it was going for. The only criticism I would have is that the character of Billy Batson, when he is his Billy Batson form and not his Shazam form, the Billy Batson form seems like he has matured. He is 18 years old. He is in high school. Like, he is a junior or senior in high school. He is matured. Like, you can see that in him as a character. But then when he switches over to Shazam, for whatever reason, like, that matureness doesn't carry over, and he's still this goofball of an immature kid inhabiting an adult's body, where, if you're watching the movie, Billy Paxton isn't that immature. He's actually making some, like, he's trying to get the team together. He's making wise, he's trying to do some not so immature-ish things in the movie. And the ending of this movie had me crying. It actually did have me cry. So extra bonus points for DC for being able to make me cry for a Shazam movie. Because comparing this to the last comic book movie that just came out, the big one with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, supposed to be the grand Kickstarter of Phase 5, introducing Kang, the new villain of this next multiverse saga, per se. And on a whole nother note, Jonathan Majors is in big trouble right now. So Marvel's got their own issues right now, and folks thought Ezra Miller was going to be was the biggest headache at DC. Marvel's got their own Ezra Miller right now, and that's in the vein of Jonathan Majors right now. So we'll see what happens with Jonathan Majors if he isn't if he is indeed in big trouble and whatnot from these charges that have stemmed out in New York against him for sexual assault or whatnot. Then maybe Marvel will have to recast him, but that's a whole nother pile of eggs that we can dive into in the future. But in terms of this movie with Shazam, this movie does a whole lot of things that it had the comedy, it had the story. I mean, yes, I can see some of the criticisms of the story that it may not be for them. But in terms of where you're going from like the first installment, you're going to the second installment, capitalize on what did well, and then kind of eliminate the mistakes that plagued the first movie. There weren't really much mistakes to have in the first movie, in all honesty. And so some of the mistakes that stem from this movie, maybe not so much script-wise, but I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, script-wise, because that's what the actors say and act out. It's just more so like the vagueness of what's in between Billy Batson and the Shazam alter ego, essentially, that he becomes, that you don't see the consistency of you feel like this is the same character in another body, essentially. And so the ending of this movie was there's a portion on it that, and I'll just say right now, you see in the trailers that there's all these mythical monsters and whatnot. And they hinted throughout the movie, are unicorns real? So I'm like, if you try to bring in unicorns, how ridiculous is this going to look? And they do introduce unicorns in this movie, and I couldn't stop smiling. I couldn't stop laughing, and I thought to myself, "This is if unicorns were real, this is how they would do it, and this is how my wife, who's a unicorn lover, would approach him and have fun with him." Oh my God, the unicorn fight sequences alone in this movie are just. Oh my God, they're so funny. They're so good in this movie. And you do see in the trailers that Wonder Woman is in this movie. So she shows up far later in the movie. She's not important in the movie whatsoever. It's just a glorified cameo. Not a wasted cameo. The cameo did have meaning to the story when you watch the movie. It did have purpose in the movie. But there were moments where there are particular set locations, and I'm thinking, okay, this is when Wonder Woman starts walking into the frame, and she doesn't. And so I'm thinking, was this a post-credit scene, or was it a big bait and switch for the audience like Morbius did when they said this is going to be Spider-Man connected, you're going to see MCU references and all that whatnot in the movie, and ultimately that was not the case. That Sony pulled the ultimate bait and switch of fans, trying to get them to see their crap movie that was Morbius. I fell victim to that, but I watch these movies because I'm a big Spider-Man guy, so I'm curious what these creators do with the Spider-Man mythos. But with Shazam, it's a solid entry, and what is, if not for Black Adam being a bad script and a bad story, all your DC movies, let me bring up the list actually, of DCEU movies, because I think because outside Black Adam, they're on a roll actually. They're on quite a roll. So DCEU movies. So let's pull this up, the extended universe. All right, so we had there was the divided movie that was Justice League that came out in 2017 with Zack Snyder ultimately leaving the project and Joss Whedon cutting half of the movie essentially down to 2 hours, force feeding some scenes in there. that he shot and filmed. So it's famously called the Justice League. And that came out in November 2017. Did not pan well with the critics or fans. Actually lost money for the studio. And then Aquaman comes out. Great banger of a movie. That's one hit right there. So you're 1 for 1. The first Shazam movie, which was really good. That's 2 for 2. Birds of Prey. I actually didn't mind Birds of Prey. So, I mean, there are those that don't like it. There are those that actually do like it. So, let me again pull another thing up here. Rotten Tomatoes. Birds of Prey. The title's ridiculous, by the way. Yeah, 78% with the critics and then 78% with the audience. So a vast majority of folks seem to like the movie. And I do like the movie. The movie was really good. For a raunchy kind of R-style Harley Quinn movie that it was, that was not a bad movie. So that's 3 for 3. Joker came out in 2018. Now that I'm remembering, it's not on the list here, but Joker came out outside the whole DC universe and whatnot, but that's still there. So make that Aquaman, Shazam, Joker. That's 3 for 3. Birds of Prey for 4 for 4. Wonder Woman 84. That's a bad movie. That's just a bad movie. Bad, like Batman Robin bad. So that's 4 for 5. The Snyder Cut of Justice League. Yes, 4 hours long. Yes, very long. But take into account, we had no Flash movie. We had no Cyborg movie. We had no Aquaman movie. We had no build-up standalone movies or like sub-team-up standalone movies to lead into Justice League. So all these origins were thrown in there, which is a good hour and a half, hour long, like in terms devoted to the origins and whatnot, and the Zack Snyder Justice League, and try to pull all that together. That's a big win. So let's count it down again. That is Aquaman, Shazam, Joker, Birds of Prey, Wonder Woman, no, Zack Snyder, yes, 5 for 5. 5 out of 6. The Suicide Squad 2 with James Gunn in charge of everything there. That's 6. Yeah, I'm losing count. ADD's kicking in here. So Aquaman, Shazam, Birds of Prey, Joker, Snyder Cut, and Suicide Squad. That is a good 6 out of 7. That's 6 out of 7. And then Black Adam comes out. That's 6 out of 8. Shazam! Fury of the Gods. That's 7 out of 9 movies. That DC's on a good track record roll right there. And if you want to include Wonder Woman that came out just before Justice League, you can make that 8 out of 10, like 8 out of 11. You can make that, you can make that 8 out of 10, I believe. So I did horrible in college, so mathematics was not my strongest suit, and I barely screeched by with mathematics in college. So I want to say that's 8 out of 11 if you want to include Wonder Woman back then. So that's a pretty good track record for DC movies. And then you have the Flash movie that's coming out this summer. And Tom Cruise, of all folks, have come out and requested a private screening of this movie. And he has said that this is a fantastic movie. And it's the movie of the summer that we need as movie fans. Now, speaking for him to say that, and what happened with Top Gun, because that was ultimately the movie that got the old geezers and whatnot, like the older portion of the movie-going audience, got them back to theaters. Because Spider-Man No Way Home, like, call what you will, like pandemic, like ridiculousness with the lockdowns and whatnot, Spider-Man No Way Home proved to you that the pandemic and the whole COVID shutdowns and mass restrictions and whatnot affecting movie theaters was a big sham and lie, because everyone showed up to Spider-Man No Way Home because they wanted to see a good movie. Give them a good movie, give them a good product, and the audience will go out to see it. Top Gun Maverick did that for the upper echelon of the audience that didn't go out initially for Spider-Man No Way Home, because that was mainly for comic book fans, and then you have the nostalgia of Spider-Man going back to 2002 with Tobey, and then 2012 with Andrew Garfield, and then all the whole plethora of villains and rogues gallery and story that carried over from all those years, 20 plus years of that, going into No Way Home. And so that proved the point that the movies are not dead. The movie theater going experience is still alive. And despite all the mask and COVID-ness and whatnot that happened in 2021, Spider-Man No Way Home came out and just said, screw it. Just screw it. Here's a good movie. Sony did not, they only pushed it back twice. It was supposed to come out in 2021 of July, and then they pushed back to November. Then for one last time, they pushed it back to December. And for all the slack they got from the movie goers, or I should say Hollywood insiders and whatnot, the Hollywood insiders that they got pushback from, because the whole COVID politics of all of it, they said, no, this is a great movie, and this needs to be seen in the movie theaters. And Top Gun Maverick, same thing. It was supposed to come out in 2020, got pushed back to 2021, and then ultimately lands on Memorial Day weekend-ish in 2022. And Tom Cruise has essentially said, this thing ain't going on streaming. This thing ain't lasting in theaters for 45 days and then going into stream with the new 45-day window that some of these movies have self-imposed on them. Spider-Man No Way Home broke that threshold. Top Gun Maverick definitely broke that threshold, and Avatar: The Way of Water have broke that threshold. What do those three films have in common? Those three films have made close to, if not over, $2 billion at the box office. Billion with a B. Top Gun Maverick made at least $1.5 billion. Spider-Man No Way Home made $1.9 billion. Had it got a China release, it definitely would have made over $2 billion. So the fact it didn't get a China release, you can say Spider-Man No Way Home deserves to be in a $2 billion club. It's at 1.9. If you had a China release, it's in a $2 billion club. No question about that. No question about that. Avatar: Way of Water, James Cameron, yeah, $2 billion, like another $2 billion, like it's nothing. Like he's shooting a fadeaway half court three, like it's a standard 2-point shot. James Cameron is. So, and with that, The Flash, to ultimately draw to this point, if The Flash is what every one of these insiders are saying, and coming off of this kind of a winning streak that DC's on right now, and the stumbling issue that Marvel is now in a bit of a chaos of lackluster Ant-Man 3. Your big villain actor Jonathan Majors is in boiling water trouble off the to use sports terms, off the court or off the field. Like in normal life, he is in deep boiling water with his sexual assault or whatever charges are brought against him. We all expect Guardians 3 to be good, but if that's another movie that that's very disappointing, then we're going to be looking back on Marvel. Like, Marvel's got a slate that if Guardians underperforms, probably won't, critically at least, and with the fans. But should it underperform the fans, it's gonna lay a massive egg on Marvel's head for a long, long time, and it's just gonna be like they're just limping through movies if that's the case. But for Flash, if it's indeed who James Gunn, who is now the head of DC Studios, had no making of this movie, has seen the movie and said it's one of the best, if not the best, comic book movie of all time. If that is the case, and you believe Tom Cruise's words that this movie is really, really good with The Flash, you can make a very, very good argument that DC and the new upcoming DCU is going to have an upper foot on the MCU right now. Like, realistically, probably not, but you can at least make that argument in case to, like, your fellow fan for, like, a fun talk and have a debate. Like, hey, DC's in a better place right now than Marvel is right now. DC has this great leadership lined up. And let's say Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is really good. Let's say it's really good or great. And then the Flash comes out, and it's the ultimate resetter of this DCU. And it's fantastic. It's a fantastic movie. Now fans are going to be saying, okay, DC's going to have a little bit of this quasi phase 1-ish, phase 2-ish thing that Marvel did when they started out, and those were great starts because they had story arc, they had direction, they knew what they were doing, and they cared about quality over quantity. Quality over quantity. And if that's the case, DC's gonna have a good argument for why they are the top dogs in terms of quality and where they are as an industry in terms of with the fans of what's better. Now, ultimately, both studios really do want the best of both worlds. They both want each other to succeed. Kevin Feige of Marvel has said that. James Gunn has said that over at DC Studios. Which, by the way, speaking of Marvel, the post-credit scene for this movie, probably the funniest DC joke I've ever heard. The funniest joke I've ever heard in this post-credit scene. Speaking of Marvel, they actually name dropped something, Marvel, and I was laughing my rear end off. I could not contain myself. It's probably the best. Is it the best comic book joke I've heard of? I have to think. Right now, I have to say yes. I have to say that has to be probably the best comic book movie joke, like in a movie, I can think of. That was a funny joke in that movie with Shazam. And then after The Flash, you have Blue Beetle, which the trailer is supposedly dropping this week, and then you have Aquaman 2, and then that's the last of this era of DCEU, and then we relaunch in 2025 with the DCU reset slate of films and TV shows and games. Like that trifecta right there for you. So The Flash is going to reset everything, but that movie's coming out at its first. So whatever happens in Blue Beetle and Aquaman 2, I would honestly just throw both of them in the trash can right now. Like, they can be good films, but timeline-wise, these movies are going to take place before The Flash, and The Flash is your de facto reset, the de facto end of what we know of this DC extended universe, as they've famously, stupidly called it. Like, The Flash is supposed to be this end. Like, this is it end of this universe as you know it. And so, with Blue Beetle and Aquaman coming out, would they be good or bad? There's been some rumblings that Aquaman 2 may not be good. Hence, they pushed it back from 2022 of December to December 2023, which had nothing to do with pandemic, COVID-related things, as was the popular thing to do since 2020, 2021, 2022. Oh, this film's getting pushed back because of COVID concerns. This movie's getting pushed back because of COVID concern. COVID concern, COVID concern, COVID concern. No. Right now, if you see a film that gets pushed back well over a year, it's usually a good indication that that movie has issues. That movie has issues. It has issues, or it's a timing thing, or they need to reshoot because the film's bad. And ultimately, G.I. Joe 2 went through that similar situation. Was supposed to come out. They said, oh, we pushed it out because of a 3D conversion, which was a BS case. They ultimately just shot some more scenes with Channing Tatum, and ultimately just to have him killed off in the movie still. So we'll see what happens going forward. But the future looks bright for DC. It really does look bright. Like, I'm super stoked and excited. And they had this Killed the Justice League Suicide Squad game coming out. I'm probably not going to get the game, but I am definitely going to be watching the story mode on that just to see like what that universe in Arkham with Rocksteady has in store. Totally disconnected from the whole movies and shows, but going forward after this game, I believe this is the last of the era of DC AAA games. That is the Suicide Squad game coming out this year. This is going to be the last one, and then any other game, AAA game that comes out, it's going to be in the vein like your Star Wars games, like your Battlefronts, your Jedi Survivor, Fallen Jedi. It's going to be in that vein where the game that you play will exist within the existing universe that you are seeing on film and on television, like Star Wars is with their games right now. So, which is why I'm hoping they need to get back to Old Republic. They need to get back to Old Republic with Revan, Malik, everything, Kreia, all those characters. Just get back to them. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen because we can have nice things in this world, unfortunately. All right, that was quite a bit there. One last bit of movie news that was not on the thumbnail, will be in the description, is one of my wife's favorite movies, and she actually has a cat. She has cats named after the characters in this movie. You have Marie and Toulouse. We have two orange cats, Marie and Toulouse, and we have a Bernese Mountain Dog named Milo. Those two cats named after such movie from the Aristocats. And it was announced that Disney is yet doing another live action remake, this time with the Aristocats. Now, the first question I got is, who are you casting as Edgar the Butler? You have to nail that casting. That's the one thing you gotta nail, because the rest of your characters are like fill-ins, like the cat's owner, the old lady, old rich lady. I don't know her name. I don't know. Like, you could probably put anyone as her. What was her name from Book Club? She was in what was her name? Like, have her in there from Monster in Law. She could be the the master of the house. You have to nail the Edgar casting. That's the one casting that matters. The rest of the characters are essentially voice actors, essentially, in the movie. With cats, dogs, geese, goose, and a whole bunch of other animals, dogs that are in there as well. They did Lady and the Tramp back in 2020. That was a cute movie for what it was. That was really... I quite enjoyed that for what it was. For the Aristocats and Disney, I just look at this of like, okay, Disney, how many more of these are we going to do? How many more live action remakes are we going to tackle now? How many is this now? We just got through Cinderella. We got through Maleficent. We got through Beauty and the Beast. Lion King, that still has a place in my heart. And seeing that movie in theaters with the live action remake, I was crying for that first portion of the movie. It was just beautiful to watch. Beautiful watch. So I liked The Lion King minus Beyonce because she was a horrible voice actress for Nala. Yeah, for Nala. She was a bad choice for a voice voice acting for Nala in that movie. Everyone else was good in that movie. Everyone else is great in that movie. How many of these live action Disney movies have they done now? This is getting redundant, and it's getting ridiculous. We're supposed to be getting a Mufasa prequel movie, which intrigues me. I'm curious what that's going to be about. Everything else, The Little Mermaid's coming out soon. There's the whole thing of race switching your actors and actresses out there. Honestly, for me, if you have a good story to tell and race is not the issue, race is not an important thing of why you're making this movie, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Famously, it was famously told. I mean, told in the Marvel circles that there's the uh, there's the reporter in Daredevil season 1 that in the comics and in the actual movie that they did back in 2003 or so, the character's white, but in the Netflix shows he's black. Okay, did that mess with anything story flow wise? No. Did they make it a fact like, oh, he's a black, like, I'm a black man, I've been through this, this, and that? No, that's not what the story told, and that's not what the character is. With The Little Mermaid and some of these other, I think they're going to be doing it with Snow White. They're going to make it a Hispanic lady being Snow White. Like, I just shrugged my shoulders. I'm like, okay, I'm not one of these fools or idiots online that will say, oh, they're just race switching, just a race switch. There are situations where they do that in Hollywood, but there are situations that they don't do it, and they just say, hey, whoever's the best actor out there or actress out there, we're just gonna cast them. We don't care what the race is. I mean, famously for Batgirl, the film that ultimately got shelved and canceled, will never see the light of day because it was supposedly that bad. The final two actresses for the role of Batgirl, for Barbara Gordon, the final two actresses were different ethnicities. One was black and one was white. So it didn't really matter like what the race was, because if you cast it as a white person, it doesn't matter. If you cast it as a black girl, which if you know Barbara Gordon, J.K. Simmons, who plays her dad, Commissioner Gordon, who's white, you can easily explain that away and say, oh, you have grandmother, grandfather, or your mother was a different ethnicity as your father, and you have a mixed race child. So that can easily be explained away in like a side plot or one line in a script that you can say. For them to go back to the well, it's getting really annoying. It really is. Let these movies. I mean, if the movie is not good for the Aristocats or The Little Mermaid or whatever live action Disney remake they do next, I'm not gonna pout or complain. I got better things to do in my life, and if they are bad, I still got the originals. I still got the others on VHS tape, or I could watch the original on Disney Plus if I want to. It's still there. I still got the Chinese cat, which they will not do in the live action remake. I guarantee you they will not do that stereotype in the live action movie. They actually put a label warning before you watch the Aristocats on Disney Plus, like, this movie may be offensive to some groups and whatnot. So I guarantee you that will not be in a live action movie. That will not be in a live action movie for sure. But yeah, stop, Disney. Just stop. Stop making these live action remakes. Just cut it off at Snow White, or no. Cut it off. Let your last one be the Mufasa prequel and be done with it. There are other movies you can tackle for live action. You're doing Percy Jackson that you're putting as a Disney Plus TV show, which could arguably be a movie franchise that you could do. You have Aragon in your back pocket. You say you're going to do something on Disney Plus. There's been no development on that. You have Iron Number 4, which, yes, there are those that think that's a bad movie. I honestly enjoy watching that movie. But my point, there are other books, there are other source material in your library that you have not touched for a show or a live action movie adaptation that you have at your back pocket that you can do. Or do original idea for once. Do an original idea, because how did movies like the Aristocats, Lion King, and others that Disney have made over the years, Beauty and the Beast and others, like all those movies and whatnot, how do they get so popular? It was the first thing that they've done. It's It's something that hasn't been done before. It was an original story take. Some of these were based off of like public domains, like Snow White, Cinderella, like those kinds of IPs. Yes, but then you have something like Beauty and the Beast. You have something like The Lion King. You have Treasure Planet is a rip on Treasure Island. But it's something new. It's something new. And Disney, you can do it. You have the money. You have the resource. Well, do you have the money? You just lost billions of dollars on Disney Plus. That's not my point. That's not my point. You have the resources to do originals. You have the resources to do what you need to do, Disney. And great company you are. You have fallen in the last few years because you have gotten in trouble with the governor there in Florida. That's a whole other topic and a whole other can of worms to open up in the future. Probably not on this podcast ever. But you decide to tick off the folks there in Florida. So you're in a whole nother can of worms down there in Florida. So you need to get your act together. You need to start you need to stop going back to the well with these movies. You need to make original movies, make them good. It doesn't matter what ethnicity it is, white, black, Asian, or Hispanic, or whoever it is. Encanto was a great original movie. Encanto was awesome for a movie. That's an original movie. Do more of those. Do more Encantos. Do more Moanas. Do more original movies. Stop going back to the well on these movies. Just stop. Just stop. Oh my God. Disney, do us all a favor. Stop going back to the well, because sooner or later, there's going to be a movie where you expect it to be, it's going to make big bank for you at the box office, and then you're going to be like, oh, not a lot of people came to see our movie. I wonder why. I would just jot it down because people didn't like the movie because they're such racists and whatnot. No. Folks do not want to see things over and over and over and over again. It is now to the point where, again, there's one thing that Disney has said they're going to do. There's been no word on this yet. And before I go off on a tangent with this, let me if there is any there you go. Just when it's on my mind, I look it up and it's right there. So all right, so is it okay? So it's a Disney Plus release. Oh, by the way, another Disney Plus release coming out. Peter Pan and Wendy. Trailer looks decent. Doesn't seem like my cup of tea. They race switch Tinkerbell, so pay no attention there. Lost Boys. They include girls as well. Did the original movie Hook have girls in it? Man, I'm doing all sorts of research here, right here. Hook, Lost Boys. Let's see who was in the cast here. I don't think they were females. They're Lost Boys, not Lost Girls. That's what the movie Return to Neverland does. All right, yeah, you had Rufio. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think. Any girls with the Lost Boys? Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it, so. Outkick one of the articles there saying Disney's new Peter Pan so woke the Lost Boys are also now include girls. Yeah. Don't really care about Peter Pan and Wendy. I'll watch it just to see if the hate behind it is warranted. But we'll see on that. But one thing I was gonna go off on a tangent because we haven't heard word from this on this in years. We were told that Disney was going to finally do a Lilo and Stitch live action movie, and just when I'm about to go off on it, I look it up online. They have cast their Lilo, and the Lilo is apparently a newcomer called oh Lord, what's her name? Mia. I cannot say that last name. Kealoha. I was horrible. I'm horrible at pronouncing names. Yeah. So, that movie's coming down the pipeline. That should be a movie. That should be a theatrical release for Lilo and Stitch. The love I have for this movie. You screw up Lilo and Stitch. You screw that up. I'm just done. I will be done with Disney in general, with everything. Maybe to the point where I'm considering not watching any more Marvel or Star Wars related movies. If you mess up Lilo and Stitch, there are words I want to say right now. You do not mess that up. Just like when The Lion King was coming out. You do not mess that up. They did not mess up The Lion King. They stayed true to what that movie was supposed to be, and it nailed it. You screwed this up with Lilo and Stitch. You screw this up. No, you don't do that. You don't do that. You do not mess up the awesomeness that is Lilo and Stitch, especially Stitch, who is your money-making machine at Disney. How many of those Stitch plushes do we see at every Disney store? They are everywhere. It is a moneymaker for Disney. You do not screw up Lilo and Stitch. You do not screw that up. You do, you're finished. You're just finished. You're just finished with this, with the kind of fans like me. You're done. Like, I'm done with it if you screw it up. If you screw that up, I'm done. You could do Snow White bad. You can do The Little Mermaid bad. You can do Peter Pan and Wendy bad. You can do whatever live action movie you got that's a remake or whatnot. You screw up Lilo and Stitch. I'm done. I'm done as a Disney fan. I'm just done. I'm done. You screw up Aristocats. I don't care. I don't care if you screw up Aristocats. You don't screw up Lilo and Stitch. The movies, the TV show that coordinated with the movie is gold. It is perfection. And that is the like there are those that are, it's I want to say it's one of the perfect childhood shows that you can show to a kid and whatnot. Unlike some of the shows that are today that dumb down the content for children, which is, again, like we're talking subjects and we can like do subtopics on this for days and hours. But for Lilo and Stitch, that movie, that marketing for that first movie was brilliant. Inserting Stitch into your previous iterations, which, by the way, they could honestly, they've done enough live action movies of their remakes that they could copy their original marketing and have Stitch pop up in The Lion King, have Stitch pop up in Little Mermaid, Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, like they did in the original marketing. Yeah, I can't wait for Lilo and Stitch. That's the one I can't wait for sure. All right, and two more things, and pretty much one more thing, and then we'll get out of here. So, the back and forth with the Memphis Grizzlies, the NBA, and the standings has been wild to watch. It's been very wild to watch. And this year, it ultimately is the wild, like one of our podcast titles is called the NBA Wild West. It is the Wild Wild West in the Western Conference Finals right now. Western Conference standings, not finals. It is the wild, wild west out there with the conference standings. The Mavericks are out of the play-in. That's how crazy this is. And never have I would have thought when they trade for Kyrie Irving that the Mavericks were going to be out. We're going to be outside looking in. Never did I think that was going to happen. I did not think that was possible. With Luka and Kyrie, I would have been like, yeah, guaranteed playoffs. Just pack it in. Just shoot it in. No, not apparently. Don't shoot it in, apparently. They are not in the playoffs. They are not. And for my good friend MJ, from the MJ Take that was a fan on the show. I mean, not a fan. Participant on the show a few weeks ago with Aaron Austin and me. He's a Laker fan. He's probably feeling happy right now. He's probably feeling really happy about his Lakers now at number 7, I want to say. And as I'm recording this, let's pull this up. Memphis Grizzlies. Yes, we are handling business right now against the Chicago Bulls. One would hope we keep that up. Because right now in the standings, as I have it brought up here in the NBA West, Grizzlies are 2 games back of the number 1 seed. They're 2 games back. That loss versus the Clippers and Russell Westbrook, if we miss out by a tiebreaker and we're tied with the Nuggets, they have tiebreaker over us. So if we had the same record as them, that Clipper loss against Russell Westbrook is going to be a backbreaker for us. He has best game in 3 years against us. And I'm convinced that it had something to do with the Memphis air that is the FedEx Forum, and he just channeled in his OKC days of playing against us all those times in the playoffs, all those years ago, and just found some voodoo with it and had his best shooting game of like 30-plus points, and they ultimately win by 10 points, which, by the way, you're tied 105, I believe it was, going into the third quarter of that game. 105. Where's your defense? Where is the defense? Oh, my God. Put that, again, Urinane Tree does this a lot on YouTube, and he is he's explicit when it comes to his speaking commentary, but I forget which episode it was. I don't know if I want to say it's football related. It's football related, and everyone was just scoring touchdowns left and right, left and right, and he's like, in today's episode of What the Bleep is a Defense, I say that now every time I see us score 100 points and our opponent scores close to 100 points entering the third quarter of a basketball game. I'm like, what the bleep is a defense? I don't say the actual word. I just say the first initial. I'm like, what the F is a defense? What is a defense these days? This is getting... Oh, my God. Defense is going to win you the championships for sure, whoever has it, in this year's NBA competitions and whatnot. The Grizzlies are 2 games out from the Nuggets. The Grizzlies have tonight's Chicago Bulls, and then they have to close out the year. They have the Trailblazers who are tanking it for the rest of the year. Damian Lillard's done. You have the Pelicans at New Orleans. Oh, you know what? The Trailblazers game this Tuesday. It's our last home game of the year, and then the next 3 are on a road. So you have the Pelicans in New Orleans. They're vying for a playoff spot. The Bucks are vying for the number 1 seed. So that could be an interesting game where both teams are trying to vie for the number 1 seed. I mean, by then, maybe the 1 seed will be, maybe realistically, Denver clinches the number 1 seed, and we clinch number 2 seed, and by then, with the Milwaukee Bucks, it's a glorified game. Like, nothing's going to happen with us, so that may be a loss. And then you have the Thunder, who's in the play-in tournament. So that's our schedule. That looks very easy on the docket. And come on. Bulls are almost tied with the Memphis Grizzlies. We better not drop that game, or else we're not going to get the number 1 seed at all. All right. I pull up the the Nuggets schedule. They play the Warriors tonight, and then they go on the road against Houston. You catch Houston on a good shooting night, they're going to put over 100 in a heartbeat on you, like that. And then you got the Suns. They just lost to the Suns. It's in Phoenix again, where they lost to the Suns a few nights ago. And then they're on the road versus the Jazz. They're vying for a playoff spot still, whatever hope there is in Utah land. And then you have the number 3 seeded Sacramento Kings coming into town. I was in 6th grade the last time the Sacramento Kings made the playoffs. I was in 6th grade. That's how long ago that was. In 2006. We are in 2023. Almost 20 years later. That's 17 years. Again, I'm horrible with math. Yeah, 17 years since they last made the playoffs. The Grizzlies the other night clinched the division, and thus they clinched a playoff spot. It's their 3rd straight postseason. But if you look since 2010, they've only missed the playoffs twice. Since the grit and grind era of 2010, they've made it every single year, except for the 2 years where we picked up Jaren Jackson Jr. in the draft and John Morant. Those are the 2 years we missed the playoffs. Is where those 2 years led us to getting those 2 players, and those were back-to-back years. So, and you can make the argument, like I will, if the COVID shutdowns don't happen and the NBA is still playing their normal seedings and whatnot, the Grizzlies get in as the number 8 slot in 2019, and they only missed the playoffs one time since 2010. That's mind-boggling to think of. Like, not since the New England Patriots can I think of a run where they're making the playoffs like it seems like every single year for the better part of a decade plus. Not since them can I think of such a scenario where a team has made playoffs like consistently. They're different players, they're different eras. We are in a new era. We are no longer in the grit and grind era. The only holdover from the grit and grind era is Dylan Brooks. And that's the only holdover with the grit and grind era that is still on our roster. Technically. Everyone else this is the new era Ja Morant-led Memphis Grizzlies. And the addition of Luke Kennard cannot be understated of how spectacular it's now looking like that trade was with the Los Angeles Clippers at trade deadline. It cannot be understated how fantastic of a move that was for him to come off the bench and be essentially what we thought Danny Green was supposed to be for us this year. We traded for Danny Green essentially for what we are seeing Luke Kennard do right now for the Memphis Grizzlies. That's what we traded for Danny Green to do. But he's old. He's been injured. So we traded him away to either Houston or LA. I want to say it was LA. John Wall went back to Houston, so John Wall's next contract, if he does give one, it's going to say no trade clause to the Houston Rockets, please. Do not trade me to the Rockets. You are forbidden to trade me to the Rockets. And part of the new NBA collective bargaining agreement, that should have been honestly on the bargaining agreement, is for players to have no trade, like if they wanted to, a no trade clause to, you cannot trade me to X team. And you get to have one selection. You cannot trade me to X team. You cannot trade me to the Houston Rockets. You can't trade me to the Orlando Magic. You can't trade me to the San Antonio Spurs or whatever bottom feeder team you want to think about. You cannot trade me to that team. So John Wall, bless his heart, he's getting paid millions of dollars. So he's going to be sleeping well in his pile of money that is his mattress right now. His little lump of money that he's getting paid millions by the Clippers and still by the Rockets and now the Rockets again. So John Wall, I don't feel bad for you. You're a rich man, so you're doing well in life. Back to the Grizzlies. Right now, as it stands, as we're recording this, the 7th and 8th slots are the Lakers and the Timberwolves. So whoever wins that game, the play-in, that's who the Grizzlies play round 1 if they're the number 2 seed. And I feel really comfortable if we have to play the Timberwolves, especially Rudy Gobert, who's horrible in the playoffs. He is horrible in the playoffs, Rudy Gobert. And they just traded for him from Utah. So you're about to find out, Timberwolves, what Utah suffered through for the last few years. So with him as your center. The Los Angeles Lakers, I don't want them in the first round, but I would welcome and happily take them in the first round if that was our matchup. Give me LeBron James. Give me Anthony Davis. Give me all the hoopla. Bring back Shannon Sharp if you want to and have him on the sidelines. We will handle business versus these Los Angeles Lakers like we have all year and in years past. We will handle our business against the Lakers, and I will happily and I will love to laugh in the face of Laker fans if we are the ones to knock them out of the first round of the playoffs and send them packing. Bye-bye. Not this year, buddy. You're not getting a ring. At least not through us. You're not going to get a ring. So I will happily accept the challenge of Memphis versus Los Angeles Lakers first round matchup. I will happily look forward to that matchup because we would win that matchup either 4-2 or 4-1. My whole shtick with the Grizzlies was I thought the Mavericks for years had our number. They pick up Kyrie and they haven't, and actually, funny enough, I've been to 2 matches this year with the Dallas Mavericks. One didn't have Luka or Kyrie. The other one had Kyrie and no Luka. Both times, the Grizzlies won. Probably shouldn't have won, but hey, the Mavericks can't close out games apparently. They can't finish the job. They can't keep their foot on the throat, the proverbial throat of their opponents. They can't close it out. And it's cost them, unfortunately, because it's looking like, barring a late season collapse from one of these teams in 7 through 10, that they are going to miss the playoffs all entirely. So who do the Timberwolves have at guard? An old Mike Conley. He's old and he cannot shoot. Yes, Conley should have been an all-star when he was with the Memphis Grizzlies, but there's a reason why we traded him to the Utah Jazz, because we knew John Morant was a whole nother level better than Mike Conley, scoring the ball and elevating the teammates and whatnot. I have no idea who their shooting guard is. They just trade away their supposed best shooting guard to the Lakers and Michael Beasley apparently. So, scratch him off your roster spot. Yeah, I don't know who's at your forward. You have Anthony Edwards, Ant-Man. He's gonna be a headache for you for sure. He's gonna be a big headache. Jaren Jackson Jr. versus Karl Anthony Towns. Bring it on. Bring it on. I want to see what Jaren Jackson is shaping up to be his Defensive Player of the Year campaign. And the way he's leading blocks. The way he's getting after on defense. He needs to, again, this is going to be his shtick against him. If he can cut back on the fouls, this man is the ultimate unicorn. This man is the ultimate defender. You can't stop him as a defender, and you can't stop him if he's posterizing you. You just can't. So bring it on with Jaren Jackson Jr. versus Karl Anthony Towns, and then we're assuming Steven Edwards, Steven Adams is going to be back in time for the playoffs, and he'll be going up against Rudy Gobert. So neither of them are shooters, so it's just a matter of who wants to rebound more. So that's going to be the 50-50 matchup. But individually, individually, John Morant is going to dominate his role at the point guard versus Mike Conley. Whoever's the shooting guard for the Timberwolves, Desmond Bane is going to get at it, and so will Luke Kennard. And then for the forward, Anthony Edwards is going to get his. It's just a matter of, can Dillon Brooks stay consistent, not get into foul trouble, not kick anyone's nuts, not get in any hysteria antics and whatnot. If he can stay away from the antics and not do anything stupid, play defense, pass first before you shoot, Dillon Brooks can be a good asset for us versus Anthony Edwards. So, you could arguably say Timberwolves got two of those five on their side with Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert versus Dillon Brooks and Steven Adams. But for the rest, Ja, Desmond, Jaren, they win their matchups, in my opinion, if that's the matchup ultimately, versus the Timberwolves in round one. For the Lakers, Dillon Brooks is going to be all in LeBron's head, and he's going to be all in LeBron's grill. So that's going to be the matchup to watch. John Morant going against D'Angelo Russell again for a second straight year. John Morant, for those first initial games, didn't have the most stellar of playoff games versus the Timberwolves, but he was able to manage it together as the series went on. So I give that matchup to John Morant. Michael Beasley, or whoever it is at shooting guard for the Lakers, I would give that edge to Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane is better defender, better shooter. Forget about it. Anthony Davis versus Jaren Jackson Jr. Yeah, bring it on. Anthony Davis, made of glass. His body is made out of glass. The dude keeps getting injured. Until he can stay healthy, do not come at me with Anthony Davis is better than Jaren Jackson Jr. right now. Forget about it. It's not happening. And then you have Steven Adams versus, again, I don't know, who are these guys? Bryant, your center? Is Bryant your center? Yeah, Steven Adams all day. Steven Adams got in that matchup lots in the bag. So, forget about that. Forget about that. I welcome a Los Angeles Lakers matchup. There's someone at church that's a Laker fan that said to me weeks ago when the whole John Morant stuff was going nuts and the Lakers on the outside looking in, he's like, hey, it's going to be the Lakers and the Grizzlies in the Western Conference Finals. And I'm like, get out of here. Just get out. You don't know what you're talking about. I hope that's the case now. Because that'll be even more humiliation for the Lakers. And a big egg on face with the NBA. If you have a small market team, Memphis, versus a big market team like LA, what better way than to stick it to the NBA and their bias towards big markets than to say, hey, you take that per se, versus the trying to stay clean here. Hey, how about this for you? And we laid on them 4-1, or we win 4-2, and we advance the NBA Finals. That will be the day. We have not won a Western Conference Finals game, despite us going that 1 year with Lionel Collins's last year. We went 0-4 versus the Spurs that year. I think that was the year the Spurs also won the championship, if I'm not mistaken. If not, it's the year later. It was one of the years. For the rest of the NBA, the Kings look really interesting, But I'm still going to stick with my take that they are essentially the Timberwolves of last year. They're the fun flavor of the week. They can light the beam, as they say up there in Sacramento. They can light the beam all they want. They're the fun flavor, and they're going to be... They're fun to root for. They're fun to root for. I mean, especially for a team that hasn't made the playoffs since 2017, in 17 years. And right now, if I'm not mistaken, they would face off against right now, they were, for a while, slated against the 6-seeded Warriors. That's not the case anymore. It looks like it's going to be... as it stands right now, it's the Clippers versus the Kings. Kings might win that series if that happens. The Kings might win their series against the Clippers. I could see that happening. I could totally see that happening. And then, because the Warriors are now bumped up to 5, they're slated, if the playoffs start today, versus the Suns. This is going to be one heck of a first round for the NBA. The East, it's the East. It's Boston versus Milwaukee until further notice. It's Boston versus Milwaukee until further notice. Yeah, you got your Knicks right there. They're 5th seed. Cavaliers finally got back to the playoffs for the first time since LeBron James. So happy for you guys there. You deserve it. You finally get to the playoffs without LeBron James. When was the last time the Cavaliers made the playoffs without LeBron James? Without LeBron. 1998. And folks want to say the Sacramento Kings? Rob, the 17-year skid? Holy crap. 1998, the last time the Cavs made the playoffs without LeBron James. 1998. That was the Tennessee Oilers when they were in Memphis. That's how long ago that was. Oh my God. That's how far back the Cavs go with that one. Wow. How about that? 90, man. There's so much story to this year's NBA. That's what I love about this year's NBA. There's a whole bunch of storylines that can be played to a whole slew of angles. But the one thing we don't need the Lakers winning it because they're the Lakers, and LeBron being LeBron that he is. We don't want the Suns to win it because it's yet another super team that gets put together, and oh, look, they're the one holding the trophy. Yay. We don't need the Warriors again because they just won it last year, and they have won it like however many times in the last few years since 2015. They've won the championship, it seems like. Yeah. Nuggets, there's parity to that. You can finally put a tree topper to that with your 3-time MVP. He wins the trophy. There's reasons to there's story and emotional ties if the Grizzlies win the championship this year. Especially with what Ja went through and what he continues to battle back from, and he's doing great with his teammates and the coaches ever since this Denver incident. What that would mean to the city and what it would mean. I'll tell you this right now as a Titan fan. If the Grizzlies win the championship this year, I mean, even if they don't win the championship, but if they do, it will solidify this fact right here. The Memphis Grizzlies will be the number one sports team in Tennessee. They will dethrone the Tennessee Titans. I think they've dethroned them already, like short-term wise. Like, who's the more entertaining team? Who's the more complete team in terms of, like, this is a competitive team year in, year out. Don't expect disappointment from them. You expect them to make the playoffs, and you expect them to not take any lumps, barring injury or whatnot. Tennessee this past year, yes, we dealt with injuries. Well, we had a strength and conditioning coach that has been with us since 2019, and we've had back-to-back-to-back years of records amount of injuries. So the injuries are preventable for the Titans side. And we had a horrible offensive coordinator last year in Todd Downing. So with us and Todd Downing and Mike Vrabel's stubbornness, didn't want to switch it over with offensive coordinators after we got the number one seed in 2021. So if the Grizzlies win the championship this year, or if they win a championship in the next 2 years, because there's no way Tennessee's winning the Super Bowl next year. If the Grizzlies win the championship in one of the next 2 seasons, the Grizzlies will have dethroned the Tennessee Titans as the number one sports team in Tennessee. That's a fact. That's just a strong, cold, hard fact right there. And I look forward to that day when it eventually comes, and it is going to eventually come because John Morant he's here to stay. This whole squad's here to stay. We have a top 3. I did not know. There's a whole slew of fans, including me, that did not know this until last year in the offseason, that the Grizzlies owner is the 3rd richest owner in the entire NBA. The 3rd richest owner. There are some that say he's top 5. That's the worst mark of, like, that's the worst I've seen. It's top 5 of 30 owners. For him to be top 3 or top 5 was shocking to hear. It was shocking to hear for me. And then when they said after we slightly, and that we should have won against the Warriors last year, didn't. Jordan Poole breaking the code and whatnot. After last year's exit from the playoffs, our owner came out and said, "Hey, I got the money. I'm willing to do what it takes to keep the squad here." And then he paid John Morant that mega contract that he got. This year, Dylan Brooks is set to be a free agent. We'll see what happens with him. I think he's ultimately going to walk. For Desmond Bane, he's first in line. Desmond Bane's first in line. He's going to get paid first before Dylan Brooks does. And so Desmond Bane is going to get paid handsomely. Whoever else is on our bench, like we did with Conchar, number 46, he got paid. We paid Tyus Jones. He's the highest paid backup point guard in the NBA. The highest paid. We paid for him on a 3-year contract. He'll be entering year 2 of that contract next season. So this owner means what he says. This owner is all in on this squad this year. He is all in this year. And he's all in for the next decade plus, because the basketball gods have blessed us with John Morant after years of missing out on LeBron. We missed out on James Harden. We missed out on Stephen Curry, DeMar DeRozan. We missed out on a whole bevy of players that could have been on our Grizzlies squad over the years. And now they have blessed us with John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., Brandon Clark, Desmond Bane. Now David Roddy, big body Roddy, continues to come off the bench and show that he's got it. I ultimately believe now that he will ultimately be filling the shoes of Dylan Brooks come next year. Dylan Brooks, I think, is going to walk. We're not going to pay him, or wherever. I mean, if wherever he wants to be paid, I don't think his play is going to justify it. So it's looking like I think David Roddy is going to take over that number 3 spot from Dylan Brooks, and we'll see what happens from there. So that's going to be fun to watch. That's going to be fun to watch indeed. And the last thing, I will close out by saying this here for those that may be watching. Some of you may be Access students that are watching this right now. There's something big coming up on Friday. Yes, it's Good Friday. Yes, it's Good Friday service. That service is going to come, and it's going to go down. It's going to be a great service to watch. It's going to be a great service to worship, hear the word, all that. I'm going to give you this little nugget, Access students. They're dropping a new trailer for Access Conference. They're dropping the new trailer for Access Conference this Friday. So stay tuned for that. And if you haven't signed up, Access students that are watching, I don't know who you are. I appreciate the viewership. But if you have not signed up already, go ahead and sign up. Like, there will be, I think, I may be wrong about this. I think there's going to be a period where the prices will go up. I could be wrong about that. But sign up now. Sign up now. I can't tell you my experience as an Access student over 10 plus years ago. I went, I was actually, I got to church, my first time at Life Church was back in 2009. They first started up the Access conferences in, I want to say, 2006 or 7. Pastor Parker can clarify on that. When did it actually start? But relatively young, relatively new when I started going in. What was it? Access 2010. I went to 2010. I went to 2011. I went to 2012 conferences, and then moved in 2013. I was able to watch that online. The church actually flew me out here to do my little trial run before they hired me as a staff member back last year. And I knew, I had a gut feeling when I was going through my job process that when they said, "Hey, we want to fly you out here to Memphis and to help us out with the Access conference," I knew in my gut that was going to be, that's the litmus test. We know you got the skill, Joshua. Now, do you mesh well with our staff that we have here today? And ultimately, that turned out to be the case. So last year's conference was really good production-wise. It was really good. And coming off the heels of Sounds of Christmas, Revival Night, and whatever they do for Easter this year. This year for Access Conference is going to be really cool. It's going to be really cool. I mean, that's all I can say. That's all I think I'm allowed to say in terms of the Access Conference. But for future episodes, I do want to bring back Zach, Aaron, and get Parker in here to talk a little bit more about the conference for you guys, so you can see so you can hear from the more insider folks themselves of what to expect and what's going on, what fun elements could be coming down the pipeline in the future. But whatever does come out and whatever I'm allowed to say, I'll be able to drop it here for you guys to listen to. So be sure to keep your eye out to be here at to be at the Life Church at Houston Levy at Kyerville this Friday, 7 p.m. Yeah, 7 p.m. Yeah, 7 p.m. I want to say, man, I'm horrible tonight. I'm so sorry. Is it 7 p.m.? What time? Service times. Yes, 7 p.m. at Houston Levy. Be there. Be there or be square. I know that was lame. The trailer will drop on YouTube, so also when you watch, the moment it drops, it'll be 2 minutes, I want to say. It'll be 2 minutes after it drops live and in person that it'll be available to watch live online, to be able to watch online. So keep your eye out on that. I'm a big trailer guy, so being able to say this to you kind of gets me stoked because it's pretty cool how the production and the effort, the quality that we as the church body be able to put together for you guys at Axis, for me to be able to be a part of that, because me being a former Axis student, Parker being a former Axis student, Zach, Aaron Austin, and others, Donovan, a whole bunch of others that maybe no longer there, but were part of the whole process of growing up with this. And now, 10 plus years later, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see all this unfold. So, can't wait for that. Definitely can't wait for that. So, keep your eye out on that. Axis Conference new trailer dropping this week on Friday. It will drop 2 minutes after it is shown live in person. All right, so that will conclude for today's show today. And just to let you know, I don't know when the next episode's going to drop. I'm hoping to get back week to week now. But the last few weeks, it's been pretty hectic. I just dropped the newest video that has dropped on this particular YouTube channel. If I could pull it up. Yeah, there it is. The latest YouTube video you can find on this channel was actually a new hit single that just came out from the Life Church Worship called No Longer There. They're going to be singing it this weekend for the Easter services. So keep your eye out on that for a good worship time. And if you want to watch this particular lyric video, it'll be it's on the YouTube channel right now called No Longer There, Life Church Worship lyric video. Not the official video. I don't know if there's one down a pipeline. I was told by some insiders that there's not currently one in the pipeline that they're making, but essentially told, hey, go for it. So, and I went for it. So I hope I did good. I hope I did good in putting together that lyric video of the new single. For first time in a long while, the Life Church did a single, actually. Back in 2015, I want to say the last time they did something. Yeah. 2015. Yeah, Loud and Clear, I think. That was the album. Yeah, they didn't get to work on an album already, but I was told during a retreat or so, I was asking around about it, and they were like, I mean, the amount of stuff that we do now, and the amount quality that we put into it, I understand the logic behind it, quality over quantity. So that's basically the ultimate. That's basically the ultimate message from that conversation I had with a few people, is that they just care more about quality over quantity in terms of why there hasn't been much on the pipeline on that front with the Life Church Worship, in terms of albums, singles, and whatnot. So, yeah, go check that out. No Longer There. That's the name of the title of the song for Easter. It's out on Apple Music. It's on anywhere that you can stream music at. It's on Spotify. I hate you, Spotify. It's on Spotify. It's on my YouTube channel. It's also available through TuneCore. It's also anywhere you can stream music from, it's available there. And so with that, we will close out the show today. My name is Joshua Mickle, and thanks for tuning in, everybody. I appreciate 14 episodes in. It's again, the amount of times I've been doing this and the amount of times I have needed to drink water, Sprite, or whatever. Well, my dad said, I need sponsors. I need at least some sort of drink sponsor somewhere. But yeah, we'll close out the show there. My name is Joshua Mickle, and until next video, no, I'm just going to keep this raw here. I'm just going to keep it raw. All right, yeah, I need to do the new tagline. New tagline. My name is Joshua Mickle, and as always, keep kicking it to the king.